Hello and welcome to Blender Bite Size. In this video I'll be showing you how to make this material procedurally in Blender. Feeling lazy? You can support this channel and skip the hard work by grabbing the blend file for this material from Gumroad for just £1. Feeling flush? Feel free to throw some of that coin my way using the coffee link in the description below the video. Okay, so let's make a start. I've already got my object loaded and selected, a principled shader setup already applied, cloth setup applied in the modifier stack, which I've got a separate video on if you'd like to see that, and I've got viewport shading enabled in the shading tab. So there's a fair bit we need to cram in here, so I will crack on. The first thing that I'll do is Shift A and search for a texture coordinate. Now I'm going to plug the UV into the base color. Now that's already quite funky and cool, but we're going to do a lot of changes. So the first thing that I need to do is apply a vector math node. Just drop it in here and change that to scale. Next I'm going to add a value node. Drop it just below the texture coordinate, set that to 25. Then a math node, that's different to the vector as shown by the different colors. I'll drop that in here, just move that off a bit. Connect those up and connect the value from the value node into the top value of the math node. Change the function to multiply and change the value to 3. Next up, search for a wave texture, drop it on the connector, then duplicate it and put it just below and connect up the vector output from the scale node to the second wave texture. We're going to change the wave profile to triangle and the scale to pi. So you can actually just in lowercase type pi and it will apply the appropriate pi value. Change the detail to 8 and the offset to 0.5. On the second wave texture, change that to triangle, scale again to pi, detail to 8 and leave the rest of the values as they are, and connect the two up with a mix RGB node. Now I've automatically done that using Control Shift and right click on one and then drag to the other. That's if you've got the Node Wrangler add-on enabled. If not, you can just search for a mix RGB node. Now let's spread that out because we need to put something in between. The first thing is going to be a map range node. That's going to go on the top connector, and for the bottom we're going to apply a color ramp. So they should now be plugged into the top and bottom colors of the mix shader. Increase the factor to 1 and change the blending mode to multiply. And let's just take a closer look at what's going on here already. So we've got lots of lines happening here already. That's good. Not quite there yet though. So for the map range, we're going to put 0.82 as the value in from minimum, 1.5 for the 2 minimum, and 1 for the 2 maximum. For the white value in the color ramp, we're going to move it to position 0.8 and change the color using the hex code 6F8FAF. Now this is kind of a denim-y color. If you want to make it some other color, that's entirely up to you. You can do that. For the black value, we're actually going to increase the value to white and move it across to 0.15. Okay. Now duplicate the scale value, connect the UV output from the texture coordinate to the vector here, and connect the value from the value node to the scale. Next up, search for a mapping node and connect up the vector to the vector and change the Z rotation to 45 degrees. Grab another wave texture, drop that after the mapping node and connect up the vector. Get yourself some white noise and again connect up the mapping node to the vector value there. Change that to 4D and change the W value to 1.110. Get a color ramp, drop it here, and get another map range node and drop it just below. Connect the white noise to the value in the map range. Connect the factor from the wave texture to the color ramp. And for the colors, again, I'm going to reuse that same blue color that I used before. I'm going to move the position to 0.65. This time I'm keeping the black value. And I'm going to go for position 0.125. Now we won't see anything changing just yet because they're not plugged up or plugged in even. So we're going to get a mix RGB node, connect the color ramp to color 1 and the map range to color 2. And we're going to mix those two mix RGBs together. Change the blend mode to multiply and increase the factor to 1. And now you can get an idea of what's happening. It's kind of giving us this basically woven look. Next up, duplicate the mix RGB and drop it just after. Increase the value of color 2 to white. Change the factor to 0.625 and then duplicate this again and drop it just after. Increase the factor to 1 and connect up the previous mix RGB to color 2. And we'll come back to color 1 in a minute. In fact, let's put it up there so we know we've got to come back to it. So this is how things are looking so far, and it's gone quite dark. Don't worry, we're going to fix that. Next up, we'll need a Musgrave texture. I'm going to put that just above all the wave textures. Connect up the UV value from the texture coordinate to the vector of the Musgrave texture. And we can connect that to color 1. We are going to add a map range node just after the Musgrave texture. And we're going to use the following values: 0, 0.9, 7.5 and 10. Now what this is doing is actually applying sort of a Musgrave texture. In fact, actually, let's increase the scale on that a bit, to give areas of light and dark, almost like weathered denim. And we're using that to overlay on top of the weave texture that we've now got. So that, my dear chums, I think is about it. Yep. Okay, so let's send that to render and let's give it 1,000 samples using the Cycles render engine. Sorry, one thing I forgot to do. Drop the specular and increase the roughness. And that's to give it a more cloth-like look as opposed to a more plastic look. Let's try that again. And there we go, we have our woven texture. Now obviously if you increase the resolution and the samples, you'll get a different result depending on the level of detail that you want. You can control the scale of the weave and the detail using this value. So 50 going up obviously gives you finer detail, going down gives you much thicker, chunkier results. You can also change the scale of the Musgrave texture that's affecting the sort of light and dark. You can just make out some changes there using so you use the scale value here to change that. And other than that, there's not really many other changes to make. If you want to change the actual color of the fabric, you would change the two blue things on the color ramps. What do you call those things? Knobs? I don't know. Anyway, right, so that's it for this one. If you have enjoyed it and found it useful, please give it a thumbs up and of course subscribe for future content. Please also share it wherever you share any other Blender information. That would be very much appreciated. And in the meantime, thanks for watching.